Hey, what's up, guys? I just wanted to create a video to walk you through the steps to use the data that Big Mike and Bob have been so generous to share with us for the purposes of importing them into NinjaTrader's historical data. In other words, so you can use them in charts, and you can also use that data for backtesting. That's what NinjaTrader uses. Now, I felt like I needed to create this video because it's a very confusing topic, at least for me, and I'm pretty tech savvy. Took a lot of digging around. It took almost an entire day's worth of digging, downloading, and then creating a system for getting all of this into NinjaTrader. So I figured I wanted to give back to you guys, make it easier for the rest of you guys coming that are going to download after me, to possibly shorten the amount of time it's going to take you guys to get all this data in. So they've been generous enough to share, as you see here in the thread. This is for the name of the thread is the official GOM recorder and Q collector tick data sharing thread. It's been going on for a couple of years. He's been Mike started it first, and then Bob took over at some point. And yeah, it's got like five or six futures symbols, exactly what most people use. And the whole reason why I'm creating the video is because there's multiple purposes for this data, and there doesn't seem to be any one concise place for you guys to go and learn how to get this data converted and uploaded to NinjaTrader. So that's why I created this video. So it's in 5 steps. First is downloading the Q collector files. We're going to go through each one of these steps together here in this video. Second is downloading the converter program, which has been created and donated generously by Brillo, and I'm going to also point you guys to that as well. Then we're going to unzip the files into folders. This is a system for all of this, so you're going to be able to just follow along. You don't have to do a whole lot of guessing, hopefully. I'm doing this under Windows 7. Probably most of you guys still have Windows 7 and haven't hopefully converted over Windows 8, which might be a little bit more confusing. After that, converting them to NinjaTrader ready files. All right, and this step here is a little confusing because the files come in 2 different formats. They changed the format when Bob took over uploading them, as opposed to when Big Mike was uploading. And that was kind of confusing. Then, last but not least, is importing them into NinjaTrader, and so on and so forth. All right, so let's get it going. All right, so the first thing I found confusing, which hopefully I can save you guys trouble, is what is this GOM data and what is the Q collector data? Well, basically, I'm not an expert on the GOM data, but I know for sure what if you're listening to this video for the purposes of having historical data for NinjaTrader, then all you need is the Q collector data. Okay, the GOM data I believe is for some indicators. I haven't really messed around with it too much, as my interest was mainly just getting historical data. So if that's your interest, then that's all you need. And that was the first mistake I made. I was downloading both, thinking I might have needed both. So you can just ignore anything that says GOM and just go with the, as you see here, as an example of one of Bob's posts. Right here, November GOM data. You can ignore these and just go with the ones that are called flats. I think let me just see here. Flats and Q collector, I believe, are relatively the same thing. When Mike was doing it in the beginning, it looks like back in 2011, he was calling it Q collect. This is the GOM, and yeah, here's the Q collector. All right, so they're not formatted exactly the same, but for the purposes that we need them for, those are the ones that you need. You need the Q collectors from when Big Mike was doing it, which I think was up until somewhere here in the middle, and then from that point on, where you start to see the flats, you just grab the flats. All right, so that's the first thing you want to do. Now, as far as how to download them and organizing them, my suggestion is for the Q collector data, you can put them all into one folder. All right, that's not going to be a problem. But for when you get to the flats, when Bob was doing it, he's just naming them by the symbol. So unfortunately, they don't have names that wouldn't clash into each other. So you can just put them into what I did was, let me bring this folder back in here. You can just bring them into create folders by the month. So in this case here, it says here are the flats for November 3rd to 29th, so that will be November 2013, and that's what I did. I put everything, you know, in folders like that. But you see, the file names are they're always the same. So that's going to create, you know, if you put them all into one folder, that's going to create a little conflict, some confusion, disorganization. So that is the first step when you download them in that fashion. Now let's move on to the next step. All right, so once you've downloaded the files, the next step is downloading the converter program. Now this is a small little app that was created by Brillo, as I mentioned earlier, that will help us convert these files to NinjaTrader ready files where we can import them into NinjaTrader. Because right off the bat, in the format that they're not ready for that. All right. So that is, I believe, as of this video, the latest version is post number 870. It's in the same thread. Maybe I'll put a link somewhere in this post so you guys can go right to it. It's basically in the same thread, just post number 870, and he basically revised it, added some features to it, and you know that it's now capable of handling both of the formats. I think originally it wasn't able to handle Mike's uploads and Bob's uploads, but now this version can handle both. So once you download that, I'm going to walk you through how this little app works and what we're going to do with it. All right, so as he mentions here, the exe for this app is actually inside of a subfolder. I would go with this one, bin release, just as a habit, as usually the one in debug when these type of Visual Basic apps are created is a different version, or just a version with different options turned on. So anyways, just go into the bin release folder when you uncompress it. Now let's go ahead and open that folder up. This is what's when you unzip it, it's going to look just like this. You're going to see some of these files. Just ignore all of these files. You don't need any of this stuff. Just keep going in here, and here it is. Q collector bin release, and there's an exe right here. This is it right here. I'm not sure why it's not placed all the way back at the beginning. I don't know if that's going to mess up things, but I would just keep it as is. Don't if it's not broken, I wouldn't try to fix it. So here is the app. NinjaTrader File Converter. It's a very cool app. It's just got two options here. That's it. You pick the files you need, and it even chooses as he explains here in this post. This is the same post 870. It automatically renames the file to the format that NinjaTrader likes. All right. So we're going to walk through that in just a second. I think the next thing, let me look here, unzip the files into folders. Okay, so that's going to be the next step. Before we can actually convert them, we need to unzip the files in a specific way so that we don't cause confusion. I'm going to explain why we want to do it in a specific way in just a moment, because otherwise, if you don't, you're going to get caught up like I did, and you're going to wind up having to do everything all over again from the get, and you don't want to have to do that. All right, so here we have, we're going to use the ES files as an example. And I have them all here in one folder. As I mentioned, what I did was I just downloaded from the batch that Big Mike was uploading. I just put everything into their own folders and so on and so forth. Now, I have the GOM data here, like I said, accidentally. I'll probably be deleting that since I won't probably be needing it ever. Or who knows. The next step is to unzip these files, and the reason why I said that they need to be done in a specific way is because there's repetitive files in all of these zip files, and it's just the nature of the way futures contracts work. So as an example, let's open up this first one here. Bring this down here. All right, and you see there is basically data for 4 contracts in here, the front month and some of the back months. So I guess at that point, what was this? April. Yeah. So the front month is this one with all the data. But as if you're familiar with futures data, or futures contracts, there's always a small amount of volume going on in these back months. So There you go. There's those four. Now, if we go to the next month, you're going to see, what is that, April? Let's go to May. You're going to basically see the same four files again. All right, so it's just if you unzip them all in the same place, it's gonna cause confusion again. Now that they're not exactly the same, obviously, this is 1 month later, and each one of these contracts has new updated information. But instead of trying to go through and figure out what that is, I mean, there's no way you're opening some of these files. First off, it's not even an option. So what we're going to do is we're going to unzip these in a specific way so that they stay out of each other's way, and we're going to not worry about any redundant information. In other words, like a lot of these zip files, like I said, some of them might have some overlapping days. It's fine. Like NinjaTrader will recognize that later on, and it'll just ignore it, and it won't re-upload it. So I'd rather deal with that because I don't want to have to go sift through all of these and figure out, like get special programs to open them and find out what days overlap or not. So the next step we want to do here is now you're going to need 7-zip. If you don't already have it, it's free. Just go 7zip.org. You get your hands on that. The next thing we want to do now is unzip these files in a specific way. So go ahead and highlight all of the zip files at one time by using Control Shift. I'm going to assume that you guys are somewhat Windows savvy, so I don't have to make this video too long. All right, and when you install 7-zip, it should have this contextual menu here. I think it's an option when you install it. If you don't see this, just go back and reinstall it and make sure to pick that option so you can have this menu here. It's very convenient. All right, so the option we want to take here is extract to // and what that's going to do is it's going to create, as you see back here, a subfolder named after each zip file. And put the contents of that zip file inside it. So we're going to have a bunch of different subfolders at the end, all organized in an easy way. So I mean, it would be the same thing as if you went through these one at a time, but this is much quicker, obviously. All right, and the other thing this is doing, it's going to address the issue that we talked about earlier. It's going to keep all those files away from each other that have the same name. That's going to cause a little bit of a headache if we don't keep them away from each other when we go through the conversion process. So there's a couple of tricks that I came up with, for shortcuts, I want to say, to do a lot of this stuff, sort of like batch processing per se. So cut down time. So I'm going to pause it and come back when this is done. All right, so the zipping has completed. As you see here, created all these folders, and each side each of those is the text files themselves. Let's just pop one of these open real quick. And as you see here, there's more data here. There's the bid-ask spread as well, which is really convenient for other purposes. But NinjaTrader doesn't read that. It only reads the date and the last and the volume. So that's what we're going to do next. The next step is to, where are we here? One of these things. Where did I do it? All right. We've unzipped it. Now we're going to convert them to NinjaTrader ready files with the little app that I showed. All right, so here's the app, and the first step we need to do is highlight the files that we want to convert. Now, thankfully, when Brillo updated the app, it allows us to grab multiple files at once instead of having to do one at a time. So that's really going to speed things up for us. So what I'm going to do is you definitely want to make sure that there's only, for the method that I'm going to show you, if you have everything in one folder, that's going to make things much easier. If you don't have anything else in these folders, exactly as I showed you, you just unzip them like this, and there's only going to be these folders and these zip files. Now I have some other stuff here, but that's not going to affect what we're going to do now. So I'm just going to copy that path, so I have one less step to worry about over here. And here we go. So from the root where the zip files were, basically one folder back from where all the subfolders are, you want to visit that folder, and in here we're just going to do a star.txt search. So basically it's going to look up all of the text files inside of all of those subfolders, and this is so we can do a Control A and open them all at once, and we're going to basically convert each one to a subfolder that's inside. So in other words, when these get converted, they're going to be inside of a subfolder called converted. That's just the way that you can name this anything you want, but it really doesn't matter. I would just suggest leave it like that. It's no big deal. All right. So again, this process will keep the files away from each other and keep everything nice and organized. And it doesn't matter if we have a whole bunch of subfolders. We're not really going to, be using this data afterwards. It really shouldn't affect things. What I would suggest though is when you do create, try not to make the paths too deep, or else Windows, if you have all these long path names, after a while Windows will kick back an error saying you've gone over the 256 character limit or whatever it is. I think it's a 32-bit. I forget what the limitation is. If it's FAT 32 or I don't remember what it is, but I know if you have too many folders with long file names, it'll get crazy. All right, so that's that step there. You highlight the multiple files. You have here. You can leave this at default, which is the input file directory / convert it, and that's where it's going to go. Now here's what we need to pay attention to for this step. For the Q collector files, which are the ones that come from Big Mike, you want to select this format here. You can double check it on. I mean, these you can't open anything 650 megs. Some of them are tiny though. You can double check and go in, and like this one here is only a meg. That'll open up. But you can just double check just to be sure safe that it is the correct. This is the U.S. style date where you have the month, the day, and the year. So you want to make sure you select that correctly, and that would be the second option here. Now for the second part, which are the files that Bob uploaded, it'll be this selection. All right. So for now, we're just going to do this one. So all we got to do now is hit convert, and it's going to take care of the next step. Now I generally like to see what the heck is going on in the background, especially with a program that doesn't really have a whole lot of feedback. So what you can do is in the Windows Task Manager, and click on Resource Monitor, and here on the Disk tab, you can actually see the progress being made. If you just here it is. So if you click on Write and you just go to the top, you're actually going to see the files being created here. This just, you don't need to do this step. I just like to see what's going on, and I can go back in and check. So right now it's creating these. Get that out of the way. It's creating these three files, ES313 last, and it's writing that to the drive right now. So if we go back here, that's Q collector Jan 13, and you can just get an idea of what it's doing, and there it is. All right, it's creating those files just so that because otherwise you could. If you don't do this step, you're going to be staring at this. You have no idea what's going on. It says not responding, and excuse that. It'll say not responding. You think it might have crashed. It hasn't. It's just dealing with gigs and gigs of data. So it's just a good idea to have a look at it, and it's going to take its time. I'm going to come back when it's done. All right, so on to the next batch of files. This is the files. I believe, well, we can actually probably get an idea here when it started. Looks like maybe April 2013 is, I think, around the time that Bob took over the thread and started uploading himself. April, so somewhere around here. All right. Now, these are the ones that I suggested that because they're named the same, that you put them into their own folders. Okay, so we want to do a search that's going to isolate just the symbol that we're looking to uncompress at the moment. Now, I don't suggest that you try to do all of them at once. This could get real crazy for you. For instance, before I created this video, the first one I did was CL for oil. So what we're going to do in this example, we're doing ES. So what we're going to do now, we're going to isolate all of the files that have ES. And the easiest way to do that is by being present in the folder that has all the months, and from here we're just going to do ES star, and that would automatically, this looks a little funky, let's go ahead and change the way that looks. That's going to automatically just do highlight the files that begin with the letter ES, which in this case is what we're looking for, and it's going to ignore everything else. Alright, so for the next step, what we want to do is we want to cut these and paste them into their own folder, and even if they have conflicting names, that's going to be okay, because I'm going to show you right now how we can get around that. So we want to right click and create a new folder somewhere. Just, well, let me get rid of this format. Okay, here we go. Okay. And we're going to call this just simple ES. And we're going to paste all those files into there. Now immediately it's telling us that there's conflicts. This is perfect. This is what we want. Because what we want to do is move but keep both files, in which case it will automatically rename them for us. Now this is the easiest way to do this so that we can do everything and continue doing things in a batch format. Okay, so it's fine that they're going to get these corny names with these little brackets and two. It's fine. It's not going to get. It shouldn't affect anything. All right. So here I'm going to paste them. You want to do this for the next 29 conflicts and move, but keep both files. So this is the result. We're going to get a bunch of files. All of the ES files are going to wind up in one folder. You're not going to have this many because again, I have the GOM files in here as well, which I'm going to later delete. I just can't easily tell which ones are GOM and which ones are not. So I'm just going to do all of them. So now once we have them all in one folder, now you can do a Control A to highlight them all, go to 7-zip, and we're going to extract to // And what that's going to do again is create folders for each one of them. It's going to look like this actually. If you just downloaded the flats, this is what you're going to see inside of each one of these ES folders. So now you should wind up with a bunch of these folders. Like I said, it finished compressing, and you're going to have all these files with this with implied trades and .tab at the end. Now these are the equivalent of those Q collectors, except for, like I mentioned, these have a little bit more data. I think they're millisecond data and a couple other columns here which we're not going to use, but the program automatically is going to remove all of that. All right, so we don't have to worry about that bit. So on to converting the files that we just uncompressed. What we're going to do is the same thing as before. Open up the program, or if you probably just have it open in the background. And first thing we're going to do is, before we forget, is switch the date format. As you probably saw, if you open one of the small ones, the date format is year, month, and then day. It's a little different. All right. So year, month, and day. So that's what you want to select. And then here we're going to do the same thing we did before, but this is going to be a little different. Let's go to the folder we just created. That was like copying and pasting stuff. So this is the folder that we uncompressed. All of the zip files, here they are. Okay, we uncompressed them here. And from here, we're going to want to do the same thing we did before, is we're going to just grab the text files. Boom. This would be, I don't know how many they are for this one. For oil, it was like 269 or something like that. Okay, so for this one, there's 89. All right, so basically that's it. You want to do, once you do that search, just hit Control A to highlight all of them, and just hit Open, and it will essentially say multiple selection cached and ready. I mean, that's the message. So the same thing as before. We've already selected this. We leave this the same, and we're going to hit Convert. Now I've already done this, so I'm not going to do it this time around, but we're going to move on to the next step now. All right, and for the final step, what we're going to do now is simply import the files into NinjaTrader. They are now in a format where NinjaTrader can recognize them, and we can import them. So we're going to go back. I'm still converting that last bit of files that we just saw, which are the ones that end in tab from Bob. But the ones that Big Mike had uploaded, those finished a while ago. So we can at least start with this and start getting a look at that. So if you recall, these are the folders when we uncompressed and converted things. First we uncompressed them, and then when we converted them, they landed in these subfolders. So these are the regular uncompressed ones. Sorry, these are the uncompressed ones. That they come right out of the zip files, and then when they got converted, they landed in this subfolder. Let's go over to NinjaTrader. What we're going to do now is import the files into NinjaTrader. So we're going to go to Tools, Historical Data Manager, and that'll bring up this window here. And basically we're going to be doing all our work here on this window. Now, I think this is the default, which represents the end of bar time. That's how NinjaTrader works. That's how it usually is. Data type is always usually going to be last for this type of data. And this is where you need to adjust the time zone of the data. I think it's all in New York time, which is the same time I'm in, which is Eastern minus UTC minus 5. Now this is up to you if you wanted to generate minute bars or day bars. I'm only going 3 years back. I think that's all they have is 3 years back. And my broker already has 3 years of both of these. So I don't really need it. I think I clicked on it. That made it a lot longer. For the processing. So only use it if you need to. All right. So the next step is to go ahead and click that import, and this is where we're going to do another clever way to highlight all of the files at once, so we can do a big batch import of all of those separated text files. All right. So the first thing we want to do is go to the folder we created for that symbol. Okay. And here it is. Let's expand this a little bit. And here it is. We want to be able to see all these Q collector folders. Let's just double check that we're in the right place. Now what's confusing now is that we have the old text files and we have the new text files, but we can easily isolate that. I'm going to show you a little trick on that right now. All right. So from here, the folder where you can see all the subfolders, we want to do a star last.txt. All right, and now that's going to isolate only the converted files that were converted for NinjaTrader. They always end in last.txt. That's the format that NinjaTrader likes, and that's what we're going to go with. All right, so we should have 101. Okay, this was a little bit more files. All right, so we got all those files here. Same thing. You highlight all of them, and then you hit open, and automatically it will start to import. I'm going to wait just a minute. I'm going to pause it and wait for this because I don't want my computer to start flipping out and doing too much stuff in the background. And then I'm going to show you that next step. Now, somewhere towards the end of the conversion, it kicked. There was like an error message that kicked out about, I guess, some of the files that were going that it was processing. So I just I had to close the app and go in and find out which ones didn't convert. And it looks like there was just a couple of them. So if that happens to you, you're going to have to just go in and track it down as well. Unfortunately, maybe there was a corruption in the original files or in the way it was downloaded. It's just a shortcut you can't get around. So I'm going to do the individual files right now and then move on to the last step. All right, so back to that last step again of importing the files. Once you highlight them all, just hit the open button and the importing process begins. Now, the way to keep progress on this is NinjaTrader does have this little status bar down here, and it tells you what it's doing. Now, I'm importing like 3 years at a time, so it's going to take a really long time, because essentially what it's doing is creating these NTD files, and I believe from looking at the, let's have a look at them again, the files in the NinjaTrader folder, it splits them up, I think, 1 hour at a time. In other words, so we have files that are, for the most part, several days or whatever. It's NinjaTrader breaks them up like it creates one file per hour is what I believe it does. Well, let's just double check. So NinjaTrader in your documents folder, NinjaTrader 7 bin. This is where it's creating the files. Let me see here. I just had a change of my. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's not bin. It's the DB. I'm sorry. And it should be here in tick. Let's expand that. All right. So right now, if we look under date modified, you can see which folders are being modified at the present moment. Right now, it's doing ES, and as you see here, 311. So it's creating these files. So if you look at the files, we can't read these. If you double click on it, it's like some kind of binary format, but they're tiny, and they also have the year, the month, the day, and the hour, I think is what this, or the minute. The hour. Yeah, it looks like January 12th at 7 o'clock in the morning is what is. So the data for that is broken up here, and then 8, 9, 10, and so on. So that's the native NinjaTrader format, and that's what it's doing. It's creating all these tiny little files as you see them populating in. As we speak, they're just popping up right now. Look, 7:26, which is the current time. It's just creating those files, and you see it zipping along. So that's why it's it takes a really long time. No matter how fast your drives are, like I said, I have RAID drives. some of the faster drives actually happen to be the slowest when it comes to creating these tiny little files. They're just really fast at doing like video and audio files, which are much larger files. They're faster at that. So you have to give it its time, and that should be it. Hopefully that helps you guys out, because that for me, those steps that I just walked you through, it took me almost all day and a lot of headache trying to figure everything out. And I'm sure most likely many of you have gone through or will be going through the same headache. So hopefully this video really helps you guys out. It's just a contribution, showing my gratitude for all that is available up on Big Mike. Big Mike's website. A lot of good stuff on there, a lot of helpful stuff. So all right, that's basically it for now. Take care, guys.